Believe me, this is so hypothetical.
Hey everyone, welcome back. We're diving back into the ongoing fallout from the caucus kickout and what Tiffany Henyard is planning to do following the results. As expected, Tiffany Henyard is taking action by filing a lawsuit, but there's a bit of a complication with this lawsuit. Behind it of all the new unemployment laws is the centerpiece of an equitable access to health insurance across the nation. But before we get into it, don't forget to hit that like button if you're a returning supporter. And if you're new here and like what you're hearing, please give it a thumbs up too. So back to the lawsuit. Tiffany Henyard is suing Napoleon Harris and the Democratic Party, claiming unfair treatment. In addition to Henyard, Fitzgerald Roberts, the mayor of the village of Dixmoor, is also listed as a plaintiff. Dixmoor is just about 10 minutes away from Dolton, where Tiffany serves as mayor. Tiffany's lawsuit is based on these claims of unfairness and other issues tied to the caucus situation. However, there's been some confusion around Roberts' involvement. According to Fox 32 Chicago, Mayor Fitzgerald Roberts has said that his name being added to the lawsuit was a misunderstanding. Roberts explained that his understanding of the conversation with Tiffany Henyard was different from hers. He made it clear that he wasn't aware of any lawsuit filed on his behalf, nor did he authorize or agree to be part of any legal action. He further emphasized that he appreciates the work both Tiffany Henyard and Senator Napoleon Harris have done for Dixmoor, but his main focus is on the village and its residents, not on any lawsuits. Roberts also stated that he is exploring legal options to have his name removed from the lawsuit. It seems like Tiffany Henyard might have misinterpreted something Roberts said and decided to include him in the legal action without his consent. Or it's possible there's more to the story, but as of now, Roberts is adamantly distancing himself from the lawsuit.
Now, let me tell y'all something. Have y'all ever emailed Tiffany? Because, she has never, since she's been the mayor, responded herself to an email. Ever. She didn't even have access because she said she don't like responding to emails.
It could be that Tiffany Henyard and Mayor Roberts had a conversation where he agreed that something wasn't right, and she took that as a green light to add him to the lawsuit. Honestly, I find it hard to believe that the mayor of Dixmoor would just randomly get involved in a lawsuit on Tiffany Henyard's behalf. It seems more likely that Tiffany, in her own world of reality, misinterpreted the conversation and twisted it to make it look like Roberts was on her team. This isn't the first time we've seen her act in a way that contradicts herself and bends the truth to fit her narrative. There's also been speculation that Tiffany Henyard is being kicked out of the Democratic Party, especially since she publicly sided with Donald Trump. One of my commenters brought up the idea that she might be getting booted from the party, and honestly, it makes sense given the circumstances. I'm not going to try to pronounce her name here to avoid any mistakes, but I do appreciate the comment. She said, "This was Tiffany's plan from the beginning," referring to the caucus and everything that went down. There are videos from other content creators showing Tiffany inside the hall before everything started. It seems like she knew full well she wouldn't qualify because she didn't have a full slate of candidates. It's funny because while she's been talking all about voter suppression and locking people out, she never mentions the fact that she didn't have a full slate or who was actually on it. This person also pointed out that Tiffany ignored the requirements of the caucus, which isn't a surprise given her track record. Even her former friend, Keith Freeman, also known as Thief Freeman, my son, who is still the village administrator in Dolton, admitted that Tiffany rarely reads or responds to emails. This is a recurring theme. Nikita Claw, Tiffany's former chief of staff, also mentioned the same thing. Tiffany seems to have a habit of ignoring important details and requirements, which doesn't bode well for her credibility.
It saddens my heart to see such inhumane done to our seniors who stayed outside in the cold for hours.
There were so many people lined up outside, and it was so cold. That's the only thing that I really took note of, because they wanted to vote. They took their time to come out. We had people out there that were on oxygen masks, pushing those chairs with the wheels on it.
This whole situation really feels like pure laziness on Tiffany Henyard's part. It seems like she thought she could skip the necessary paperwork and still become the supervisor nominee or SLC candidate. Her strategy, along with the support of her handful of backers, like all 8 of them, appears to have been to bring elderly individuals to the caucus and use them as part of a voter suppression narrative. The plan was to frame the situation in such a way that it made it look like those inside intentionally excluded elderly people, leaving them out in the cold. Tiffany continuously emphasized this point during her media interviews, repeatedly talking about how the elderly were left out in freezing conditions. She even brought in one elderly woman, actually a few of them. But it seemed like the same woman kept popping up in these interviews. The story she told was that these people were abandoned outside, sitting in chairs with wheels, seemingly neglected and left to freeze. It's clear she used this emotional angle to push her narrative, but it feels like a tactic designed to manipulate the situation rather than genuinely address the underlying issues.
Hey guys, it's your Super Mayor Tiffany Henyard, the People's Supervisor / Mayor. Today is election day. I hope you guys are super duper excited because today we get to find out who will be our president. So I pray that it will be, me, I'm all with the women's movement, Miss Harris.
I think Tiffany Henyard was likely referring to wheelchairs when she mentioned chairs with wheels, but either way, it's clear that she's conveniently forgetting about the Dolton residents and senior citizens she left waiting outside the village hall for meetings. No matter how hot or uncomfortable it was, Tiffany didn't care if people were on crutches or had other mobility issues. Everyone had to wait for her to show up, often late as usual. According to some, Tiffany even deliberately arranged for the elderly to arrive late, giving her time to stage photos and videos with them outside. In my opinion, this is a form of elder abuse. She had senior citizens standing in the cold just to capture photo ops with them, to boost her chances of getting on the ballot. If that were my grandmother or mother, I would never allow them to be exploited like that. It's a clear example of Tiffany's lack of empathy and respect for others, using people for her own personal and political gain. In return, she gives trivial rewards like bingo prizes to the elderly, which only adds to the exploitation. Also, there have been some controversies surrounding the extravagant prizes Tiffany gives away. Instead of something small like a toaster, she's handing out large items like washers, dryers, refrigerators, and freezers. It raises questions about whether these prizes are genuine gifts or part of a calculated effort to win favor with senior citizens for her political agenda.
Oh, the big bingo. I can't stress big bingo enough, man. Everybody be down here. So 500 people that come down here and be a part of that movie. People win air fryers, Keurigs, they want TVs, refrigerators, stoves, what else they need? Washer, dryers, you name it. It was down.
The list of criticisms against Tiffany Henyard goes on and on. Let's get back to this comment, which points out that Tiffany likely won't go through with a lawsuit because, firstly, she can't afford any more lawyers, and secondly, she knows she'd lose by a landslide. The comment was made before Tiffany's public announcement about suing, so at the time this was just speculation. The commenter also suggested that instead of pursuing legitimate legal action, Tiffany relies on fake press releases to try and sway public opinion, engaging in blatant grandstanding. And yes, grandstanding. Tiffany Henyard has certainly mastered the art of it, even though she constantly accuses others of doing the same. It's clear that Tiffany knew she didn't qualify, yet she continues to push her narrative, largely because she's been enabled for years, operating unchecked. Both Governor Pritt's General Kwame Rowell have consistently failed to hold her accountable, allowing her to operate without consequences. The commenter believes that Senator Napoleon Harris was sent by Governor Pritzker to remove Tiffany Henyard because she's shown herself to be disloyal to the Democratic Party. In politics, it's much like gang loyalty. If you're seen as disloyal to the group, there are consequences. One major reason for this is Tiffany's repeated public support for Donald Trump. She's gone so far as to publicly congratulate Trump, starting with a Facebook post and continuing to show her alignment with him. Her actions have made it clear where her political loyalties lie, and it's been a point of contention within the Democratic Party. She's been suppressed before, but a stormtrooper video came out yesterday showing her on a virtual date with Donald Trump.
I'd like to ask the trustees if any of you are personal friends with the owner of W&W, because Michael Smith is, and I can prove it. Tiffany, you are. And have you ever been to my business?
Yeah, I have.
Have you?
Yeah.
Thank you. For what reason? Don't say it.
So you got
Thank you, Mayor.
Basically.
You're doing a good job. I say Wes's and Airline do the towing.
You say what?
Wes's and Airline should be doing the towing because you're personal friends with the owner of W&W, and so is Michael Smith.
Just because Michael is don't mean I am.
Just because Michael is, thank you. Have a good night. Thank you, trustees and residents. Just because Michael is. Who is Michael to you?
So? What they got to do anyway?
Thank you, Tiffany.
Okay.
Just because Michael is.
Okay. Can we have order, please? Order.
I just wanted to actually formally introduce myself. My name is Early Walker. I am the owner of W&W Towing.
Just doesn't even make any type of sense to me to go to another company. So that's why I picked W&W Towing.
Fellow elected official from Village of Dixmoor, I want to speak on behalf of WW Towing. They tow for our village and have done a fantastic job. You guys have hired our ex-police chief, Mobley, who experienced the towing services of WW. You're talking about giving back to the community. You're talking about events. WW Towing does that.
Feel strong about airline. I'd like to see another one. I'm looking at WW Towing. Upcoming strong business, plus they're out here in the south suburb with us. I'd like to see them get opportunity at that.
On the motion to approve the proposal by WW Towing, motion by Trustee Hunt, second by Trustee Brown. Trustee Brown?
Aye.
Trustee Pearson?
No.
Trustee Stubbs?
Aye.
Trustee Muhammad?
No.
Trustee Hunt?
Aye.
Trustee Henyard?
Aye.
4 ayes, motion carries.
That company, WW, has everything that was required of them.
So Tiffany Henyard starts off saying she supports Kamala Harris, and then the next thing you know, she's backing Donald Trump. That's a major red flag. In politics, you can't keep flipping from one side to the other like that. It just makes you look disloyal, and people quickly see that as a sign of how easily you could switch allegiances when it suits you, or in other words, when you're getting what you want. A big win for politics is a ruthless game, and when you repeatedly disrespect the people who helped you rise to power, you're quickly cast out. Had Tiffany shown more loyalty to the party, they probably wouldn't have taken such drastic steps against her. If she had just stayed quiet and not publicly praised the leader of the opposition, she might have remained on the ballot. So thank goodness for Tiffany's big mouth. She's really dug her own grave with her lack of political sense. The commenter went on to say that Tiffany's situation isn't about concern for the residents. They felt betrayed by one of their own, so they're simply kicking her out. It's more about politics than anything else. Tiffany has no political acumen whatsoever, and she's paying the price for it. If she had just kept quiet, stayed loyal, and avoided praising Trump, she might have avoided this mess. It's a hard lesson for her, but a valuable one. Now, when it comes to transparency, this is something that keeps coming up. Residents have consistently complained about how non-parasitic Tiffany is, especially with the financials. In fact, the Lansing Journal reported that the audit firm hired to review Thornton Township's financial report for the last fiscal year refused to endorse it. The accounting firm John Caspero decided not to offer an opinion on whether the numbers added up. This lack of opinion essentially means they didn't want to certify the financial report as accurate. Apparently, Tiffany Henyard, along with Robert Hunt, put together a budget that painted a picture of Thornton Township going from a large deficit to suddenly being in the green. Some critics are calling this out as propaganda, claiming the financial numbers aren't accurate and the books may have been cooked. Robert Hunt, the CPA and Director of Finance, is often described as part of a dynamic duo with Tiffany. They've known each other for years, working together in Dolton, even scheming to get a contract for Tiffany's baby daddy's towing company. This is something a competitor mentioned in a clip, pointing out that Tiffany and Robert had a long-standing relationship with Early Walker, who later became her partner and the owner of W&W Towing. I'll share a bit of this clip where you can hear about how Tiffany and Robert worked together to get that contract for Walker's company. Stay tuned because it paints a clearer picture of how this whole situation has unfolded over the years.
Come on, I would like to know your position. I would like to get an updated report, a statistic, a measurable outcome on some of these youth programs that you have. You don't do anything but cause disruption, intimidation, confusion, and I just don't understand what it is you're getting paid to do.
As we can see, Tiffany, Henyard, and Robert Hunt have been ride or die since day one. I wouldn't be surprised if Robert Hunt were willing to do a little something strange for a little change for Tiffany. But that's just my opinion. Based on their long history together, it wouldn't be shocking if they had some behind-the-scenes dealings. Now, let's get back to the article from the Lansing Journal. According to a letter within the Comprehensive Annual Financial Report for the fiscal year ending February 29, 2024, the accounting firm hired to audit Thornton Township indicated that it didn't have enough documentation to verify the financial numbers. They stated, "We do not express an opinion on the accompanying financial statements of governmental activities, each major fund, and the aggregate remaining fund information of the township." They also added, "We have not been able to obtain significant appropriate audit evidence to provide a basis for an audit opinion on the financial statements appropriately provided by this department." They stated, "We do not express an opinion on the financial statements of governmental officials." Basically, they didn't have enough proof or documentations to confidently sign off on the audit. They didn't have MITRE cameras and they didn't have any appropriate auditing information to confidently observe. Another example of the ongoing issue with transparency in Thornton Township, especially under Tiffany's leadership. Just like the trustees in Dolton, who've claimed they don't have access to financial documents, credit card reports, or other necessary information, now we have an audit firm saying they can't even confirm whether the township's financial reports are accurate. This is another red flag in a long list of problems surrounding Tiffany. It seems like there's something missing here, which matches the ongoing theme with Tiffany Henyard. It's clear that there are serious concerns about transparency, and the audit firm isn't willing to vouch for these numbers. What do you all think about the accounting firm not being willing to certify the township's financial report as accurate? To me, this is just another issue that adds to the mounting list of controversies surrounding Tiffany Henyard. And let's be honest, Tiffany's desperation to hold on to her position as Thornton Township supervisor isn't about serving the community. It's about keeping that $200,000 salary. Plus, if she loses the position, it's likely her boyfriend will lose his cushy job, making over $100,000 a year, with no clear explanation of what exactly he does in his role as youth violence prevention coordinator. There's no data to show what progress has been made or what impact he's had on improving youth services or preventing violence. It's hard to see the justification for such a high salary when there's no transparency or evidence to support the role. In fact, a local resident even raised questions about Tiffany's boyfriend's job, wondering exactly what he does to earn that kind of pay.
Pray that they show up to the board meeting, because right now we don't have insurance. So I hope it don't take that long to have a meeting. I will continue to call special board meetings so that we can clear up our issue.
I couldn't believe I looked at this agenda and saw the word secret squirrel on a freaking on a professional agenda for a village. If you look on that first page, she has secret squirrel meeting on there. You know what made that necessary? 11 council meetings.
So I hope it don't take that long to have a meeting. I am suing Napoleon Harris. I am suing the caucus. I am pressing charges on the clerk, on Trustee House, Trustee Norwood, Trustee Belcher, and Trustee Tammy Brown. I'm pressing charges on everybody.
Inside I have from the United States District Court, Northern District of Illinois, Hiram Eisen Jr. to you, and it's both personal and in your role as mayor.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you much. Yes, sir.
Exactly. I get sued all the time. Y'all. Somebody going to jail just so you clear on that.
Tiffany Henyard's boyfriend Kamal Woods is quite the enigma. He rarely speaks and tends to stay in the background. Another YouTuber, Cooking with Frank, humorously refers to him as cigarette breaks because he's often seen stepping out for, well, cigarette breaks. That's pretty much the public perception of him. Quiet, behind the scenes, and not very involved. So it was definitely surprising when he decided to speak up at Tiffany's rally, which had a very modest turnout of about 25 people. But when he did speak, it wasn't about his role in the Thornton Township Youth Violence Prevention Program or any details about the work he supposedly does. Instead, he chose to direct his words toward a female reporter, Regina Waldreth. What he said was quite concerning as he came off as very threatening in his tone and manner towards her. I'm going to play a clip of this moment as his behavior was pretty out of line. He was aggressive and hostile, and honestly, I don't think that's acceptable, no matter who you're speaking to. As a reporter, Regina is probably used to some heat, but that doesn't make his actions right. The way he acted was just inappropriate, and I wanted to share this clip because it's important to call out when things like this happen. Let's take a look at the clip.
So, Tiffany Henyard's boyfriend, Kamal Woods, decided to speak up at her rally. And it was quite surprising. Up until now, he's always been in the background, rarely saying anything, and most people know him as the guy who takes cigarette breaks, often mentioned by YouTuber Cooking with Frank. But when he finally decided to speak, it wasn't about his job with the Youth Violence Prevention Program. But he had a problem with Frank. Instead, he chose to get aggressive with a female reporter. Regina Waldreth, a regular, posted the exchange on Instagram to share what happened, and honestly, I think it was pretty distasteful and cowardly. What I find particularly telling is that Kamal Woods, who has been quiet through all of Tiffany's public outbursts, chose to speak up against a female reporter. Kamal, the hotel representative, chose to speak up against a female reporter, as Cooking with Frank pointed out. Kamal has never confronted someone like Dame PLO, who has also shown up at events and confronted Tiffany in the past. So why, all of a sudden, does he feel the need to act so aggressively toward Regina, a female reporter? It really says something about a person's character when you notice they only speak up or get confrontational with certain people, especially when they avoid
others who may challenge them more directly. Kamal's actions in that moment spoke volumes about his behavior and his willingness to pick on someone he perceives as less of a threat. So, that's what's going on with Kamal Woods and Tiffany Henyard. Let me know what you all think about this recent development, and the past events too. I always try to keep things up to date, but also bring in older information for those who may not be familiar with the backstory. It's important to understand the full picture, especially when it comes to understanding why so many people, myself included, consider Tiffany Henyard a hypocrite. If you've followed my channel long enough, you've seen some of the older footage from Dolton's board meetings, and you'll see the contradictions for yourself. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like it, and if you're new here, make sure to subscribe.